It's the future, man.
Hey, I used to have seizures.
We'll keep putting up with speed. That's all I started. Now there'll be plenty.
There was a girl that wanted in school. There was a girl.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We had a little delay in starting so that everyone could sign in and be seated. I want to thank Indian Central School District for allowing us to use this venue. Masks are required. We're in the school, so please wear your mask. Oh yes, I have to say that the exits are there and there, and the boys' room is out to the left, and the girls' room is out to the right. Now that we're past 6:10, we'll have to call the meeting to order. I'll call the meeting to order. Please join me in placing the flag.
To the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We had a sign-in sheet for the public hearings. You've all had a chance to sign up. If not, they still have that out there. In order to get through this in a timely manner, we're allowing 1 minute. You'll be able to come up and remove your mask while speaking. We'll be distanced there, as I am right now. there's an awful lot of interest in the issue at hand tonight. It seems to be very emotional all over the state. Each municipality is dealing with it. I'd like to have a motion to open the public hearing. Motion made and second. In favor? Aye. Public hearing is open. I will start out by reading a little bit of a breakdown of where we are. Yes, for this moment, we are able to check the first two and deal with them later. Okay. On March 31st of 2021, Governor Cuomo signed into law the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, the MRTA. The stated purpose of this legislation is to create a regulated and taxed cannabis industry. The MRTA legalized the possession and use of cannabis immediately. But the actual sales of adult use cannabis is not expected to begin until late 2022 or early 2023. A local tax on the retail sales of adult use cannabis will be collected by the state and distributed quarterly, with us receiving from 1.5 to 3% of the sales occurring in the village. Villages may opt out of allowing retail dispensaries and on-site consumption establishments subject to progressive referendum. This must be done by December 31st of 2021. No municipality will be able to opt out after December 31st of 2021. A municipality that opts out may repeal this opt-out at any time. Villages will have some ability to regulate time, place, and manner of operation, provided that such laws or regulations do not make the operation of such licensed real estate dispensary or on-site consumption unreasonably impractical as determined by the Cannabis Board. The MRTA also created two agencies called the New York State Cannabis Control Board and the Office of Cannabis Management. According to their websites, the adult use cannabis regulations state that legislation of adult use cannabis is an enormous shift in public policy. The regulatory framework outlined in the MRTA is currently under development and will require input from communities and stakeholders throughout the state. The Office of Cannabis Management needs to draft and issue regulations to implement the law before adult use sales can begin. However, while there are currently no stores open to purchase adult use cannabis, the possession and use of cannabis for adults 21 years of age and older, in accordance with the MRTA, is now legal. Please continue to monitor this page for updates. Tonight, we are considering a local law to opt out. We're here to listen to your comments. I ask you to be respectful of others, allow them to speak, and when it's your turn, you'll be allowed to speak. I will call you in the order you signed up. First speaker is Marcia Devine. The next will be Calvin Cordella. And everyone will be allowed 1 minute.
Can you hear me now? Oh, yeah, that works. Thank you. In early 2021, hearing that New York State was planning to legalize marijuana, I began considerable research on the subject. I discovered that for 85 years, we have been lied to about the negative effects of cannabis, to the extent that even today, many hold an underlying belief that marijuana is an evil weed. There are substantial studies which conclude that cannabis is not evil, but indeed has health benefits and positive side effects. I've heard that there are no regulations from New York State. When has New York State never regulated anything? Anyhow, regarding MRTA dispensaries, I hold in my hand lounges, and I hold in my hand the 128-page Senate law, which details regulations, restrictions, and administrative policies for the Cannabis Control Board and moving forward for the cannabis industry. Marijuana is legal, and I urge the village board to allow dispensaries and adult consumption sites in the village of Penn per zoning regulations, allowing adults to make responsible decisions on its purchase and consumption as we do with alcohol. Thank you.
Next, Kelvin Corella, and after him will be Bruce Lyon. Kelvin?
Hi, my name is Kelvin, and I live here in the village. Marijuana is legal here in Penn right now. That's a big change for the village. But we aren't here to decide whether it will continue to be legal. That's outside of our power. We're here to decide how we react to that change. We can adapt to the change, turn it into an opportunity, or we can stick our heads into the sand and pretend it isn't happening. If we do that, if we opt out, we'll have a black market, or we'll get gifting shops opening in the village, or we'll have a dispensary open up just outside the village to take away our potential revenue. It's your job to lead this village in the right direction. Help us take advantage of this opportunity. Don't stick your heads in the sand.
Next is Bruce Lyon, and after that will be Carly Chilson. Bruce?
Hi, my name is Bruce Lyon. Unfortunately, the speaker before me said almost everything I had planned on saying. I think you were foolish to opt out. I understand that you can opt in later, but you'll be behind the curve, and somebody just outside of town will have the dispensary and not the village. You did that with the Travis Park that was over across from the nice lake park you have in the village, and for years it was a mess, and you wasn't in the village, but you had to deal with it. Now it's a multi-million-dollar thing, which is not in the village, you're getting nothing from it. You cannot do this, you cannot stick your head in the sand. It's here, it's going to be here, this is the place they're gonna come, tourists are gonna be, they're here, they're gonna come here. They're gonna go just outside of town to get it if we don't have it here. We need to have it here, we need to have it regulated. It's gonna be another year before it's, the regulations around any kind of license is gonna go out. Take the time to put the regulations in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Carly, and followed by Don Snyder.
Hi.
I'm sorry.
Carly Chilson, I live in the village. It seems like the majority of the board wants the tax money from this, and as it was spoken, 1.5% to 3% is all it'll get. I spoke with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, who reports he was encouraging every municipality to opt out, as the state has failed to put in regulations or guidelines and gave us a hard deadline. The Cannabis Control Board, CBC, is not fully functional, as the mayor just said. There are no regulations on how to grow it, what to put in chemicals in the ground. Our assemblymen and the village board and the state all acknowledge the same point. There are no regulations. Why are we pushing forward with this if it's not regulated? It is legal to smoke and consume, however, it's illegal to sell. It is creating a big increase in the black market, which is a big mistake on the state's part. And coupon shops are a big concern if we don't opt out. And that's where you buy a coupon for $30 and you're gifted $30 of marijuana. And if somebody can give me their time, I'm more than willing to share more. I was just
No.
gifted another minute.
One minute, please, Carly. Thank you.
One more minute, you give it to me.
Thank you, Carly. Non-signed is next, followed by Ken Campbell.
Carly should have made you aware that she has a petition with 289 signatures on it, requesting that the village board opt out.
Thank you.
I think that the mayor introduced this subject nicely in his opening remarks, but reading from the Cannabis board publication, which I looked at today, the legislation created a new Office of Cannabis Management governed by the Cannabis Control Board to comprehensively regulate adult use medical and hemp cannabis. The OCM will issue and develop regulations outlining how and when business can be participated in the new industry, when business can do that. But those regulations are not in place, and you don't have any track record as to how the Cannabis Board is going to implement them. You're flying blind if you don't opt out. These people who want marijuana now are trying to deny our opportunity to vote. All we want is to vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Thank you very much, followed by
Member Craig.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity. I also would like the opportunity to vote on this for the village of Penn, and there are 5 things. First of all, as the Public Safety Committee looked at all of the aspects of safety within the village, how it is affected, what is happening in other communities that do this, what are the pros and cons. As the Public Safety looked at that, I would ask that you do that. I'm not here to call anybody foolish or a fool for whatever you're going to do. I don't think that serves their purpose. If there's a conflict of interest, many business owners, I know Ms. Hogan has a business, I'd ask them to recuse themselves because it unfairly advantages them by being on the board, having a place downtown. Anybody else that affects, I would ask you to recuse yourself. There's a sign on the lobby that says 18% crime drop, 15% property rise in our values. I'd like that looked into. I think probably when they legalized marijuana, it did drop just because it's legalized. There's less activity, and possession of marijuana wasn't a crime, it was a violation. It is nothing now, it's just a matter of your preference. I do suspect that the rise in vehicle and traffic law violations will rise. You'll probably have a rise in the DWAI drugs, driving while impaired drugs. You might have more pedestrian accidents. I don't know, I'm speculating, of course, but I want the Public Safety Committee, maybe the police department, to look into that before we actually make an opt-in or opt-out. I'd also like to make sure that that you guys give the weight of all of us who speak to the village of Penn residents. I think that for informational purposes, the residents of Yates County do have a say. They're looking to benefit and maybe not benefit as we all are. But the village of Penn residents vote. You guys represent the village of Penn residents. I do thank you for this opportunity to come here.
Thank you, Ken.
Yep, thank you.
Next is Barbara Craig, followed by Wesley Smith.
So as a registered nurse, I really want to approach this from the safety standpoint that this gentleman just mentioned. There is a current trend for marijuana to be laced with fentanyl. It has been reported in Vermont. It has been reported as recently as December 2nd in Connecticut. 39 people who thought they were smoking marijuana ingested fentanyl without knowing it and had to be revived with naloxone. Regulating marijuana means that the dose is accurate and the purity is ensured. The reason that people are lacing marijuana with fentanyl is because there is now a legal market for marijuana that the illicit market has to compete with. If we want to talk about public safety and we want to decrease the number of overdoses that I have personally seen in the emergency room in Geneva, we need to take a look at the safety issue of this. I will also mention that In the period, the last 3 years in Gates County, there have been 18 deaths from overdose. It's not from marijuana, it's from opioids. It's from opioids laced with fentanyl, and this is now the trend. I have any amount of data, if anybody wants to see it or to hear it from me, I'd be happy to debate it. I will not talk with people about falsehoods that have been propagated in this community by my own legislator. I've had people come to my door this week to tell me lies that have been propagandized. Yes. The Lake to Lake Bulletin this week, today, posted the same spiel that it had 2 weeks ago, of which were statements that are not true. So I'll debate anybody who wants to talk fact. I will not debate anybody who wants to talk fact.
Thank you, Mrta. Next, we have Wesley Smith, followed by Elise Anderson.
I'm Wesley Smith, and I want to applaud her for what she said. I've been around a long enough time and been informed about drugs a long time. I don't understand why we are even discussing this. I feel it's illegal. Now, if the substance is to be used for medical, then the government should put out what they need. And you should be able to get it at the drugstores. Otherwise, for anything else, no. So I opt out. Thank you.
Next, Elise Anderson, followed by Rebecca Demond.
Good evening. My name is Elise Anderson. I'm the president, and I'm urging the village board to opt in for recreational cannabis dispensaries and on-site consumption lounges for responsible adults. You might be surprised to hear there's a wide variety of people who enjoy cannabis. It would benefit our community to take advantage of this opportunity to generate tax revenue in a safe, transparent manner. Opting in is the safest option if you're concerned about the quantity and the quality of cannabis in the community. This is sure to be a well-regulated industry. This is New York after all. And there are actually regulations in place. If you want examples of what they have already done, for cannabinoid hemp products, very detailed, 48 pages long. I highly suggest you read it. But as a elected official, I do trust that you have done your homework on this and you know what we're talking about. So if you opt out, that will not address a lot of these community concerns, but it will remove your revenue opportunity and any transparency you could have.
Thank you. Next, Rebecca Demond, followed by Brenda Jensen. Yes.
Support not opting out. All signatures that came to us.
Yes, go ahead, Rebecca.
Hi guys, how are you today?
It's gotta be.
By opting out, we will be adding to the list later on. With 1,009 municipalities opted in, at this point, we will most likely not get a dispensary or lounge due to population density. I understand New York State has only created base laws. It has left a lot open for interpretation. I have confidence you can see that you are supported in staying opted in. We could create a community-involved committee to help with regulations by working together. If you choose to opt out anyways, I request that you do it with a referendum today to force the residents of your village to petition and educate against current dispensary versus sticker shock and misinformation during the holiday season for approximately 600 signatures. That is more than has turned out to the last 3 village elections. This is an injustice to your village residents, especially after such a push from members of the board, our own Milo legislator and advisory council to have a vote. We understand this is a big change for some and a hard decision, darn it, to help you know you are supported in staying opted in. Could everybody rise who's here to support them, please? We support you. Stay opted in, please. This is our chance. This is our chance to be ahead of the industry. We are at the top of the wine industry, a brew industry, and here we could be right in the forefront of the marijuana industry, from start to finish, manufacturing to growing, dispensing. And I know that's over a minute. So.
Thank you. Next is Brenda Jensen, followed by Lena Irwin.
Thank you. I'm Brenda Jensen. Before you decide whether or not to have consumption sites and dispensaries, shouldn't better laws be developed for smoking or using cannabis in public? Why is it legal to use in public when it is illegal to consume alcohol on public streets? It, like alcohol, is a mind-altering drug that needs regulations developed and put in place before storefronts sell it or lounges are started. New York State may be the first state to tax on levels of the psychoactive compound THC. Other states base tax on weight or volume. THC levels are becoming more important as the cannabis industry moves into the concentration of, concentrates rather than the flower, and edible products become more popular. If New York State develops this, when and where will the THC levels be measured? They can be anywhere from 12% to 35%. Overall, because of this, New York State could be looking at a relatively high tax rate on cannabis. Therefore, black market cannabis will still be an ongoing issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Lena Irwin, followed by Janet Wilson.
Good evening. I just wanted to say that I don't feel like I can add a whole lot. I don't feel like I can add a whole lot to what people have said about opting out, but that would be what I would ask, is that you would please opt out. Thank you.
Thank you. Janet Wilson, followed by Larry Hall.
Yes, good evening. I also would like to request opt out. Thank you.
Larry Hall, followed by Carol Hall.
I work for the Captain family in Rushville. They recently suffered the loss of their 32-year-old son due to a drug overdose. Their son started smoking marijuana at approximately 17 and progressed to harder drugs as time went on. He got his cousin involved in smoking marijuana and harder drugs, which led eventually to both him and his wife going to prison for selling and robbery. He got out and had been clean for approximately 3 years, but recently relapsed to harder drugs after returning to smoking marijuana because it was legal. If you witnessed the devastation of these two families, and many other families in this community because of drug use, I think we should opt out. Enough people have already been hurt in this community because of drug use, and marijuana is just another drug, and allowing this drug to increase tax revenue is putting money ahead of people's lives.
Thank you, Larry. Carol Hall, followed by David Thorne.
Please opt out. Let us vote. If the village opts in, this decision will later on down the road be the beginnings of criminal acts, and there's going to be broken families and death to our loved ones. Marijuana is the gateway to harder drugs.
a citizen resident of the village of Penn, and I strongly oppose the establishment of a cannabis dispensary and lounge on Main Street in the village of Penn for the following reasons. It is a fact that traffic accidents increase in states that have legalized cannabis. This whole matter is a health and safety issue. The very lives of our children are at risk for being passengers, pedestrians, bicyclists, and Mennonites. The second fact is that people that use cannabis perform significantly more poorly in their work. Cannabis remains in the bloodstream for days. I urge the board members and voters to opt out of a cannabis lounge in the village or anywhere in the county.
Cynthia Gillette, followed by Brenda Quash.
Hi, I am an actual tax-paying resident of the village of Penn. My concern with the papers that were turned in by the young lady that spoke is how many of those people are actual tax-paying residents of the village of Penn. I want to support Carly Chilson's petition for over 200 signatures of village residents who are taxpayers that want to opt out. I also would like you to opt out. I do think it's inappropriate for any business owners to be on the board and have a vote. No offense. And I think it's important to consider our law enforcement and what they already have on their plates. They don't need additional difficulties with driving while impaired or people that are under the influence, and then they have more on their plate to have to deal with in the village. I do appreciate your time, and I hope you have a good evening.
Thank you. Brenda Quash, followed by John Carter.
Hi, I'm Brenda Watt, and I appreciate this time. I think there's nothing wrong with allowing the village, to be able to have a vote and have their say at the voting pool. I say opt out for health and safety reasons. It's a gateway, and it'll wreck many more families than what alcohol does. It already has. I can speak of that personally. So I thank you for your time, and let us vote.
Thank you. John Clark, followed by Ellen Malloy.
As a pastor, I have seen too many lives wrecked by reckless use of drugs. And this is just a beginning drug. It's saying to the children around us that this is okay to not have a clear mind and to hallucinate and to do poorly in your schoolwork and to do all these things which gaming drugs with such a theft in mind. Now, I encourage the board to think clearly about this. We're not talking about extra money for the coffers. We're talking about young lives that are going to be touched by our action or lack of action. So I encourage you to opt out.
Ellen Malloy, followed by Joe Shank.
Good evening, I'm Ellen Malloy. This has just kind of come to light. Carly came and showed some of the evidences that she had about her concerns when she went to an Indian reservation recently. The edibles are right in line for children to watch and see. That concerns me in this community as a mother and a grandmother. I am so concerned about having this being so easily available for our children to see. And I'm hoping that we can opt out and have a vote. Thank you.
Joyce Shank, followed by Pamela Chanel.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity. I say opt out, let us vote.
Good evening. Yes, I am also up here to say, let us vote to opt out. I think it's a slippery slope that you guys are playing with. It scares the pants off me. I'd be interested in knowing police, what they think, the local ambulance drivers, what are they seeing? So please, let us vote to opt out.
Molly Lawrence, followed by April Sutherland.
I was asked recently, do you think that we can win this? Meaning, do you think the village will embrace progress and allow dispensaries? I said yes. Yes, we can win and opt in. I think we've already won. Look at everyone here tonight. Each one of us cares enough about our community to be here. We care about our village and its future. We are here and we care, and that is very powerful. That is a win. I'm asking the board, we have entrusted you to do what's right for the village. Penn needs revenue, not resistance. We trust you to choose progress over procrastination. We need you to consider facts over fears. Please choose revenue and not regret.
Thank you for letting us speak. I simply want to add that I want to see us opt out and everybody be able to vote on this. And I definitely feel that our children and grandchildren are much more important than some more tax money that's coming in. Thank you.
Carla Vanderlinder, followed by Barbara Heath. Or Hood.
I'm a resident of the village, and I don't have young kids, but I have young nieces and nephews, and this is not something I'd want them exposed to. And I think it's wrong to put it here because we already have a drug problem. We have so many young children, and my vote is to opt out.
Barbara Hood, followed by Gloria Warren.
Good evening, thank you. I am a registered nurse by profession, and through my career I have seen numerous episodes that break my heart, leading from the beginning the use of marijuana to death. So I am here to support Carly, and I choose to opt out. Just let us vote. Thank you.
Gloria Warren, followed by Bruce Correa.
I say opt out. I have a brother who got started on marijuana, went on to cocaine. He eventually kicked the habit. His best friend that he started smoking marijuana with, him and his 3 sisters continued to use it, and eventually 2 out of the 4 got completely off drugs. 2 are now schizophrenic from having gotten into this habit. There's a little girl in the Penn school district right now whose father overdosed a couple of years ago. And I see what that little girl goes through. So I know it's addictive personalities that causes this, but why take a chance? You read the paper each week under the arrest. How many are there from alcohol? How many are from driving under influence? I'm sorry, it's just asking for trouble. I vote opt out.
Rich Moran, followed by Gene Spanik.
Clearly an emotional decision for a lot of people, and everybody gets into it a lot.
speak this evening, if only for a moment. At the last meeting, which was earlier in November, a number of the board members indicated that they needed more information. And I mentioned at that time that I would ask you tonight if you would enumerate for us, please, what that information was that you were seeking, those of you that were seeking it, and what you found out. I hope that you would, each of you who were looking for that information would tell us what it is you wanted to know and what you did find out. That's one thing. Second thing is, if you do decide that you're going to opt out and put it up for a vote, if you would identify for us this evening exactly what the wording of that vote is going to be. Because I know in the past that there have been some tricky languages associated with this, whether people are opting in or opting out, and it needs to be fairly clear. And I hope that you would enumerate that for us tonight. I'm in favor of opting in. I don't think opting out is going to cause or solve any of the problems that were listed here tonight, and those that may be identified a little bit later. I would also say that adults need to be adults, and you can let us as adults make adult decisions. There will be decisions to use and not to use. If it's not done here, people will find other ways to do it and go to other places and bring it back here, which they can. And the only downside to that is that the village is going to be losing a small,
thank you, Jamie.
A small bit of revenue.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk. Thanks for approaching this in good faith. It really means a lot. One thing about as a gateway drug, I know that's something that's been talked about a little bit tonight. And the worry that some of us have about it as a gateway drug, not so much that it is one, but right now, people who use marijuana, cannabis, are buying it from somebody that has heroin in their other pocket. And we don't want people buying drugs. We don't want people buying drugs. We want people that want to use cannabis responsibly, which is legal, to not be buying it from somebody who also has something that's illegal. That said, I don't think that this issue is about cannabis. I think this issue is about our community, and I think that's why we need to vote to opt in, not to opt out. We have to opt in tonight. I know that there's an option that later on we can opt back in if we opt out tonight, and I know that's something that procedurally a lot of people think might be the right way to go. I don't think that's the right way to go because we need our community to be able to focus on other issues, and I don't want us to spend the next 3 months worrying about this.
Thank you. Mrta, followed by Smith.
Good evening, board, and everyone here. My name is Gene Mrta. I am a business owner. This has nothing to do with me being a business owner. I'm also a stage 4 cancer survivor. I've been on a medical marijuana program from Strong Hospital recommended for my health, for pain. I've been around dispensaries. They're very organized. They have a good control there. It's nothing sleazy or cheesy about it. It's all government run or state run. I feel that having a dispensary, whether it's here or outside the village limits, it's not going to change anything. Down in town here would just bring extra revenue that's going to be somewhere else that we don't. I'm opting in because I think it's going to be okay, and I've been around it enough to see that it doesn't hurt anything. Thank you.
Andrew Smith, followed by Robin Morris.
It seems to me that the state has not yet written the regulations that are going to apply to this, but they've written the law that says that you can't opt out after you've opted in. It seems to me it would be reasonable to opt out now, and you could change your mind later, but you can't go in the opposite direction. Is that true? So I think we should opt out and let people have their vote.
Robin Morris, followed by Don McMinn.
My name is
is Robin Morse, and I elect to opt out. I don't think there's been enough people knowing exactly what this is going to involve. I do agree with medical marijuana. I think that is something that is fine. But to go and buy whatever you want to, wherever you want to, I do not agree with. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. John McMinn, followed by Diana Schneider.
Hi, thank you for giving us this opportunity. I'm opting out. My concern is our children. I don't know, I'm not a medical person, but I do have had experience with a family that has chosen to smoke marijuana, and they've been on prescription medicine for that completely made them irrational. I opt out because I want to be able to vote. I want to be able to think this through. I want to know what is right and what's wrong. And right now, for me, in my heart, for the safety of our children, I opt out.
Thank you. Diana Schneider, followed by Don Schneider.
I think Don already talked, but.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Diana Schneider, and I just want to say that I think you should think long and hard about this choice. I think everybody should have a chance to vote on this. It should not be just a few people, because all of us live in this village, and I would like you to opt out. Thank you.
The Don Schneider that I have listed on the first page here, the name was Don Sider, S-Y-D-E-R. Is that a different name than, is there some individual by that name? Okay, we'll move on now to Rich Axel, followed by Edwin Lee.
Hi. There's been a whole lot of crazy spoken at this podium tonight. I just want to point out first, it seems to me that one of the biggest causes for concern tonight was children seeing dispensaries around the area. Nobody seems to have a problem with children walking by the Beverage Baron, the Mustang Pub, I mean, you go to the gas station and you tell your kid, hey, go get a soda. It's right next to a bunch of 30 racks of beer. So why are you having a problem with marijuana? Another thing I wanted to point out is that a gentleman earlier tonight pointed out that things could be slid into this. I wanted to point out one thing that has been, according to the Chronicle Express, this measure also will limit your ability to walk down public streets smoking a cigarette, cigars, things like that. I don't know if many people knew that. I'm a smoker, that affects me. Also, I started smoking pot when I was 13 years old, all right? And you know what? I didn't go to a store to get it. I didn't have to show an ID to get it. I went to a guy who didn't give a crap, and he sold it to me, and I was 13. So it seems to me that there is no question here. Legalization is obviously better because it can be controlled. Thank you.
Edwin Lee, followed by Susan Irwin.
Hi, my name's Ed Layton. I'm a resident here of Penn, and I'm a retired nurse. Thank you. I dropped my hair tape. Okay. in my career as a nurse for 40 years. My last 13 years, I worked at a drug rehab. And in working at a drug rehab, I dealt with addicts that were just came off the street to up to 6 months and further into their recovery. I've seen what it does to families. It's not progress, it's regress. To allow the drug to be available. Now, there's a big argument to whether marijuana is an entry drug. Well, it is. I saw it for 13 years. Almost all the people, not all, almost all, started with marijuana. I think you need to consider this. The money that you're going to derive from...
Thank you very much.
I just want to tell you the damages are going to be worse than that 1.5% to 3% you're going to garner. Those people are pros and they want me to get off. Thank you.
That's right.
Susan Irwin, followed by Dan Irwin.
Hello, my name is Susan Irwin. I really didn't want to come up here to speak, but I do have something to say. I just retired after a little over 40 years working for Yates County. During that time, most of my time was spent at the probation department. And what I have to say is I saw so many young people destroy their lives, starting out with marijuana and moving on to other drugs. I saw many young people that I really liked and enjoyed spending time with who died by different means, by hanging themselves, by overdosing, different things. And I think it's something that the village needs to seriously consider, that even though there are people who use it responsibly, we are affecting a lot of young people's lives. Thank you.
Dan Irwin, followed by Mike Christensen.
My name's Dan Irwin, and I worked in law enforcement for 42 and a half years. And I have a real problem with the drug situation. And I have said since March 31st, 1975, right up till today, marijuana is nothing more than a stepping stone to bigger and different things as far as drugs are concerned. So I'm going to opt out and support of law enforcement 100%. And that's my point about it.
Thank you. Mike Christensen, followed by Lois Agliata.
Good evening. Having served, and I thought I'd be following up somebody that already brought up what I'm going to bring up, but somebody stole my thunder. As being a previous 12-year member of the school board, having served on the village board and active in the youth activities in this community, I'm pretty proud of the village of Penn, having been a resident for over 40 years now. My first issue is the state's been involved in implementing this. My experience in the boards and my time in the sheriff's office, if the state is dealing with it, they screwed it up before they even implemented it. Secondly, zoning is an important part of this venture, and there is no zoning in place for this yet. And I know from having served on the village board and worked with different zoning amendments, and we did over the master plan, I know that if it's here before the zoning is in place, they can buy up anything that's commercial and you have no control. You can exercise a moratorium until you get your zoning in place, and it lines up all types of Article 78 in legal litigation. Am I wrong, Mr. Brockman?
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Irwin.
Yes, I retired several years ago as county educator for the Council on Alcohol and Addictions of the Finger Lakes. And I can tell you with all my training and everything that I've seen, that although physically it may not be a starting point, because everybody is different physically, the little amygdala is different, etc., it will take you there. I also do a jail ministry that I've been doing for over 15 to 20 years, I can't remember now. And I do ask every one of them in there, because often they tell you, I don't ask them to know why they're there, they will just tell you most of the time. And the ones that tell me they're there for drugs, most people don't for some reason or another. What started you on? And they all tell me marijuana when they were kids. So also a study was done in Colorado for a whole year after it was legalized in Colorado. All of it, the statistics went up by threefold as far as accidents, as criminal. You'll be getting money in here, and sure, everybody wants a little more money in our economy, that'd be great. But you'll also be spending it on fighting crime and on fighting drugs and kids. I'm telling you, with media literacy, I used to teach that as part of my job. They're going to be out there telling the kids. They're responsible adults, and that's great. And some people like to smoke the stuff, I guess, or use it, whatever. And that's okay for people that are responsible and adults. But it's the kids that are going to be looking at these adults saying, oh gosh, I guess if it's okay for them, I guess I can look for this too. So my thing is opt out, please.
My wife's schooled by father. I've been involved in the ministry also for over 40 years. And in the jail ministry, I was there one night when there was like 18 guys grumbling and complaining about the jail, what was going on in the life in jail. And I asked them, you know, how many of you, I asked them what they're all complaining about. And I asked them, how many have been here more than once? Or in some jail more than once? And every hand went up. They've all told me that most of the time they're there for drugs. I said to them, all right, if that's the case, why do you keep coming back? And again, I go back to the old same places, the old same people, the old same environment, the old same drugs. How many of you want your children to come back here in 20 years? Not a hand went up. Not one of those persons wanted their children in jail. I keep trying to tell them they're the ones that children are looking up to. I think you should opt out, and if for no other reason, give yourself some time to truly investigate. Because as watching this community, you're responsible.
Good evening. I think I'd like to focus on what kind of a community Penn is and can be. Honestly, I'm not real clear whether opting in is what I would like or opting out so that we have more time and more thought and consideration can happen. But I liked what Becky Godby said about the community that we're in and the people who are here tonight. We've heard lots of different wisdom, insight, experience. I think putting together a group that would be advisory, I'm not sure exactly what Becky said, but I think that instead of trying to divide ourselves again about something, which we're getting really good at, is to find ways for us to come together. Alcohol hasn't gotten away. There's as much, I'm stuck. I got caught.
Time extension.
It's a trick.
Thank you.
board to opt out and let the community decide. Thank you.
Case followed by Sherry Vaughn.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I would have a couple of maybe concerns here. One being that you don't know what the regulations are coming forth from the state. They seem very unclear. And I'm concerned about the extra burden we're going to be putting on law enforcement. I think we need to opt out and have a vote.
Sherry Vaughn, followed by Laura Rubis.
I'm Sherry Long. I live in the village, lived here for 50 years, and I would like to opt out and let us know.
Laura Rubis, followed by Mrta.
Hi, I'm concerned about the availability of cannabis to our children. If we have dispensaries in town, it's going to provide more opportunities for children to get a hold of it from parents. And I think we need to opt out and give people the right to vote on the issue. Thank you.
Mrta, followed by Lois Christensen.
Several of the people have covered things, so I won't go into everything I was thinking of. But first of all, I find it highly hypocritical to have bars in a community and not have a dispensary for marijuana. Marijuana is not these other drugs that we keep hearing facts about. The second thing is why do we want to encourage people when they go purchase drug or alcohol to drive further? That seems to make a more dangerous situation. And I guess the third thing, I have witnessed people smoking marijuana and drinking for a good 50 years plus. I have never seen a violent person that was only smoking marijuana, but I have seen plenty of violent people that drink.
Phyllis Christensen, followed by John Christensen.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Christensen. I opt out. Marijuana has caused a lot of sadness for our family over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. John Christensen, followed by Peggy Smart.
Diane Christensen, opt out. Thank you.
Peggy Smart, followed by Clarence Smart.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing this whole meeting to take place so both sides can be heard. That is appreciated. Couple thoughts. If it's true, I brought this up at the first meeting. If it is true about the increase in traffic accidents, again, I'll say, why do that to your law enforcement that you work side by side with? I don't see the sense in that. So obviously, I really would like it to be opted out, give us a chance to vote. Don't make this about revenue, please. Please don't make this about the revenue. Keep the integrity that you like this small town to be in, right? You have so much summer people here. You know, let's keep it the quaint small town that they come here for, I guess. So please opt out, give us a chance to vote.
Good evening. I'm a lifelong resident here. I was born and raised here.
I've seen Penn go from Mayberry RFD to what it is now. And everything escalates. It's just the way of things in this world. I recently retired years back from soldiers and sailors. I was with the engineering department. We were acting security when they had the mental health unit there. And I tell you, you wouldn't believe the things that we had to deal with and see because of drugs and people coming in there. Tom, chief of police now, he was there helping us, a lot of the other guys from the police department. It's not a good situation. And I know people start out on marijuana way back when I was in high school. You know, people got involved with it, that, and also alcohol.
Thank you very much. Next is Jim Urbeski, followed by Ken Sisson.
Hello, my name is Jim Bobreski. I'm a resident of Penn for 26 years. When we think of drugs, I like to opt out and need time to think. Drugs, culture, responsibility. With any freedom, there comes responsibility. I hope that the people who want to use marijuana think about the consequences. Think about having a child. Think about birth defects. Think about the blood-brain connection of THC. There comes with freedom responsibility. I guess that's where I will leave that. I'm only wondering at this point. Thank you.
Next is Ken Sisson, followed by Tiffany Anthony.
Well, as some of you perhaps know, I'm the chaplain at the jail. Been there about 10 to 12 years. With all the guys I see, there's two things that usually have created their problems. Number one is alcohol. Number two is drugs. I have not had one person that I have asked, one of those inmates, would it be, and I have asked this question many times, would it be a good thing to make marijuana legal? Well, the state thinks it's legal, doesn't mean we have to have it legal in our town. Because something is popular, because something is profitable, and believe me, marijuana will not be popular or will not be profitable. And I heard people say, oh, but it's for those after 21. I'm going to tell you something. When I grew up here, at 14, I was drinking.
Next, Tiffany Anthony, followed by Billy Dunham.
How are you guys tonight? I just wanted to say a little bit about why I believe we should opt in. I am a village tax-paying resident. Those of us who believe in opting in are trying to make you worry for your children's safety. I myself have children, and I don't worry about this as I know it's going to be in a controlled environment, unlike marijuana that's on the streets now. We just want the choice to get legalized, controlled, not laced marijuana here for those of us 21 and older who wish to smoke it. The same way people go to gas stations and liquor stores to buy a bottle of alcohol instead of showing up to someone's store to buy homemade moonshine. I hear many people saying marijuana is a gateway drug. I am a recovering addict myself with a drug addiction that took 10 years off my life, and I am sober and able to still be in recovery thanks to the help of marijuana. Thank you.
we should opt in for a cannabis dispensary. There are multiple reasons why, but can we just focus on one important one? Would we like our family members or friends to be smoke laced marijuana and die? Wouldn't we want them to have a safe place to go get it so it's safe for consumption? I know I should.
Followed by Ian Khan.
All right, I am reading on behalf of Nicole Fleischman-Shea and her 20-year-old son, Derek Shea. Derek was born an epileptic. After 4 brain surgeries, 3 vagus nerve implants, 16 different seizure medications, 2 emergency rescue medications, over hundreds of hospital visits, and 14 mercy flights, I was told to take my son home and just let what will be. I was not going to just let my son die. After research, we found medical marijuana. I picked Derek up and we went to Arizona to have him seen by doctors and evaluated for medical marijuana. Derek went from having 10+ grand mal, 20+, over 60 partials, and 1 abdominal vomiting seizure, so 244 seizures a month, and 4 seizure medications, to 15 absent and 1 uncontrollable vomiting seizure a month, and 3 seizure medications, with 1 of them being medical marijuana. Derek, as of today, hasn't had a grand mal seizure in almost a year, a partial in 6 months, and thanks to medical marijuana. So you can check out his page on Facebook. It's Derek's Journey Against Epilepsy.
Hi, my name's Ann. This is a hard decision for the board to make, and I would suggest that let the people make the decision. Let them have their say. Marijuana is legal. People can smoke it in their own homes, on their own property. Perception in this world is everything. And Penn has an image as a family-friendly, wholesome, small town. I guess I'm just a fuddy-duddy. I'm gonna come out and say it. I don't like the optics of a smoking lounge on Main Street. I think that money isn't everything, although it's often used as an argument to justify decisions.
Thank you, Ian, and thank you everyone. Well done by all. Motion to close the public hearing. Motion made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Now we have before us Resolution 82, 2021, the adoption of the local law of the Village of Penn, subject to public permissive referendum, opting out of the 2021 New York Cannabis. Motion. Motion made and seconded.
Could you use your mics?
Pardon
I
me.
can't hear.
I said I make the motion so we can have some discussion here at the board.
Second. And a second. And all in favor?
All right.
Carried. Well, let's start discussion. We had some varied comments. We'll get each of you would like to make a statement.
I'd like to start out, my name is Norm Cook, lifetime resident here in Penn. I've never been a marijuana user twice in my life. Drank more than I should probably at times, not that much anymore. The issues I see, and if I'm wrong, correct me, if someone wanted to open a medical marijuana shop now, they could, if I'm not mistaken. What we're gonna decide is whether we want a smoke shop or lounge or whatever you wanna call it. I guess I've read some articles where some of it's legal now with this huge tax on it. Some of the people are still gonna look for it outside of the stores because they don't wanna pay whatever it is, 15% tax is what I've heard. So they're still gonna seek that. I'd like to see it safe. I agree with the fentanyl stuff. That's not what I'd like to see in it for the ones that do use it. But I guess my vote would be to opt out now and give us a chance to zone it and try and figure out exactly what we want. That's my opinion. I'm done.
I think one of the speakers tonight was directing some of his talk to me and when I said I needed more information to make a decision. So let me share with you what that information was, although I did think I spoke to it that evening as well. First and foremost, what are the regulations and controls that the Cannabis Control Board is going to put in place? There is no answer to that because those aren't written. There's not even a draft of those regulations. Secondly, what's a reasonable revenue expectation? I did find an article in a marijuana trade publication that was written in November last month that talked about the average revenue from retail cannabis stores, somewhere around $500,000, but it ranges from there on up. But it says in small rural communities, the average revenue is about $100,000. Usually they are small mom and pop shops run with maybe one employee. So it's an article that I researched and found run by a trade magazine that was looking at what the average revenue is. My point there is there won't be a big tax revenue windfall from this, in my opinion. Thirdly, I wanted to know what other communities were doing around us. As of today, a little over 500 municipalities throughout the state have opted out. That's important to me to know what other communities are doing that are like-minded, that are like-sized. I have a list of them if you're interested. Many of them are similar to Penn in size. Some of them are tourist towns like Alexandria Bay. Hammondsport has opted out. So I wanted to know what those towns were, and now I have answers to that. And finally, my fourth question is, what does our community want? The only way to answer that is to have a referendum. So those were the questions I wanted answered, and that's the research I've done to find those answers.
That's right. We have other discussion? Dan, there you go.
My name's Dan Padilla. My concern with communities surrounding us that are opted in. You can sell it in other communities, they can deliver it to the village. State made it legal. You can walk up and down the street and smoke marijuana. The revenue would help us fight that. Either if we opt in or opt out, it's still legal. The state's already made it. My biggest concern is around.
Mike is fading in and out, can't hear you.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
How's that?
Yeah, privacy.
Okay. And my biggest concern is the communities surrounding us are opted in, that they can still get it in the village closer, so. That's all I have to say.
So can everybody hear me okay? So I agree with all three of those guys over there on different levels or whatever. So myself, my family, whatever, we're not involved in marijuana or anything like that. I know there's good, there's bad, depending on who it is. And I think we can all agree with that or whatever. But I feel like if there's an option for us to have control over what we want to do in the village, as far as, you know, setting up a dispensary or lounge or zoning however we want, I feel like that would give us control of as opposed to possibly opting out and allowing like Milo or other communities that are around us to then have control of that.
Is this on? Oh, it is.
It is, right?
Yeah. I'm Rich Stewart. I have a couple of things to say. When Ray said there's about 500 municipalities that have opted out, that's 500 out of 1,500. So it's about a third of the state, population-wise, whatever. A third of the communities have opted out. That means 2/3 haven't, approximately. And yes, they have until a week from today or tomorrow or whatever. So that will probably go up a little bit. I saw online from the alcohol beverage, whatever, ABC, that we had 39 liquor licenses in Penn. Later tonight, we're going to vote to see if we want to give a new bar in Penn a 30-day waiver about having a liquor license. So that's gonna be 40. And I don't know if the American Legion is in Penn or not, so I didn't count that. So you know, and we've done that before. We've had people put new or have request liquor licenses, and we gave them we waived the 30-day requirement for it. A lot of people have said that they would like to have lounges, which is like bars. And in the law, the lounge will be very similar, will be restricted very similar to what bars are restricted in. And matter of fact, if you go to the law, if it goes over to the alcohol law, and there's a lot of things they can't do. You can't gamble. There's a whole ton of things that you can't do in a bar. But one thing that in a lounge you can't do that you can do in a bar, I believe, is advertise on the windows. So there's no advertisements going out to the public about sales or whatever, or what marijuana they use or whatever. And the state put that in there for a reason. Another thing is that lounges cannot have a happy hour. They can't reduce the price of alcohol or the marijuana, cannabis, for a time period, and they have to stay strict within the cost of the law. If we have a lot of bars in Penn, and obviously we do, or places to buy alcohol, and people are already asking for the opportunity to have one or two of one dispensary or one lounge, but it's not even to have one, but to have an opportunity to have somebody who wants to come here. I think we should consider that. I don't like to tell people that you can't have a business here, a legal business to make money for them and hire people. I heard a lot of comments about stuff that we should have been talking to Albany about a year ago or 2 years ago. But having drugs, having marijuana in the village is legal, and we need to deal with that. We as a village can't deal with that. We can't say you can't have marijuana in the village. That's over and done with. I guess I'm done.
Thank you, Rich.
Teresa Hoban, resident. So I live on the edge of town. I look across my street and I see Milo, Penn, New York, 14527. I look the other way, I see Milo, Penn, New York, 14527. What is the difference? It's an imaginary line. And everybody that came here today to talk about the difference between this little dot and everybody else that have opted in, where were you when Milo opted in? They're in. And they can bring it to our town. So why wouldn't we do what's best for us?
Thank you. We had a few, well, Ray addressed the one question about what information we needed. That was regulations. I am not comfortable with the regulations being developed. We haven't seen any drafts. You've got information there that's related to the alcohol. There's no, I don't see the, we haven't seen the regulations, and that I'm a little leery of going into that blindly. Retail sales, I think that's something that we need to have here. The on-site consumption, I'm not so clear about. I don't understand what one is or what one will be, Rich. I don't. I think I'm recommending that we opt out and it goes to a public referendum. The people have the people of Penn have the ability to look into the benefits of the retail operation, and they need to consider whether they want to have on-site consumption. I believe we should opt out on this.
Mayor, I'd like to make my position very clear. I've not once said I was opposed to dispensaries or consumption lounges. I've not once said there's going to be an increase in crime or the burden on our police force or traffic violations. I've never said that. All I've said is my position is to opt out now to preserve our opportunity. Correct. To opt in or out later after the state has its regulations in place. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? I will do a roll call. Mr. Spencer? A yes means we are considering the passage of local law here.
Right,
Which
I'm
would.
curious, a yes means we're gonna opt out,
Yes
no
means
means we will not.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, so, roll call, Mr. Spencer.
I vote yes.
Mr. Cook. I vote yes. Mr. Condell. No. Mr. McLeod.
No.
Mr. Stewart.
No.
Dr. Hogan.
No.
That ends that portion of our agenda.